Hey everybody, I wanted to make this video weeks ago when I had about that much stuff, but now I have about 3 boxes worth. This will be a challenge to see how fast I can get through 3 boxes worth of new haul physical media material, just to show you what I bought, just for my own edification and fun, and hopefully yours. So the prices on these have ranged from free to 25 cents, 50 cents, $1, to about $2. There's a few things I pay a little more for. Not usually. I like to look for bargains. Some of these are from different institutions and half-price books and stuff like that. Anyway, let's go. So I got this RCA Columbia VHS tape of Francesco Rossi's Bizet's Carmen with Placido Domingo and Julia McGinnis Johnson, I think. It has the old RCA Columbia logo on it. It looks brand new almost. I like finding things like this. This reminds me of my good old video store haunt days. And this is not one you're going to find very often. State Fair, the 1945 version from 20th Century Fox with Gene Crane and Dana Andrews. This is fun. It's in beautiful Technicolor. I think I only paid 25 cents for that at Fat Rabbit, which is a thrift store on Bardstown Road. Bat 21 with Gene Hackman, R.I.P. Gene Hackman. This is on Media home video, so it's a really old videotape. See, it has the old Media logo on it. I think I paid 50 cents for that at Half Price Books. Marvin's Room. This is a 1996 drama with a very young Leonardo DiCaprio, Diane Keaton, R.I.P. Diane, Robert De Niro and Meryl Streep, so quite a cast. It's a really good film. This is one from back in the video store days. Again, this was 50 cents. I picked up at the same Half Price Books a copy of Fellini's Roma from 1972. I saw this at the Vogue Theater way back around 1979, I guess. Back when we used to see art house movies. There it is. I was glad to know that I did not own this before, so I didn't buy a movie I already owned. This is something called Happy Hour on DVD. It's an indie film. I like indie films that look like they might be kind of writerly, and that one looks like kind of an actor's thing, which are always fun. No particular order. These are some recent CD acquisitions. Got this Mozart Flute Concerto. There's also Cimarosa's Concerto for 2 Flutes on London Weekend Classics. We got Ravel work Scheherazade with Victoria de Los Angeles on EMI. Great Performances of the Century Classics. Scarlatti work Sonatas with Alexis Weissenberg on Deutsche Grammophon. These are some Moravian duets on the Supraphon label. Piano pieces and I guess choral pieces. Something you don't run across very often, and this has kind of a beveled silver center, which is rare. That was $1. I was glad to find something like that. It's an uncommon item. Nojima plays Liszt on reference recordings. I already own this, but you don't run across this very much, and reference recordings always sound amazing. But I got this Mozart horn concertos, all 4 horn concertos with Alan Civil and Rudolf Kempe. I think these were recorded in 1967. This is on EMI. Eminence, which I think is a mid-price label. Nice red disc. And I didn't have these. I had the concertos by other people, several other famous horn players, but not the Alan Civil ones. So I was glad to find that. Most of these were $1 or less. Requiem of Mozart by Neville Mariner and the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. This was recorded around 1990, I think. This was done after Amadeus. Mariner did selections from the Requiem in the movie Amadeus a few years before this, but he hadn't recorded, as far as I know, the whole Requiem until this. Someone will tell me I'm wrong, but you know, this is a good... I mean, the guy knows how to do Mozart, so it's not like I didn't already have tons of recordings of the Requiem, but it's nice. I listened to a little of it. Howard Hanson's Fourth Symphony with Gerard Schwartz on Delos. It seems like over time I keep finding little Gerard Schwartz on Delos CDs. Eventually I'll probably end up getting all of them because one or two will turn up here and there. So I didn't own that one, which is nice. Fibbage. This is on also Superfon Denon. And I need my glasses, guys. Hold on. Where did I put them? There they are. This is something you don't run across very often. It's different little pieces by Fibbage. Zdenek Fibbage. Oh man, my pronunciation of Czech is going to be like absolutely excoriated by you people, I'm sure. We've got Spring, a symphonic poem, Romance of Spring, At Twilight and a Night at Karlstein. Again, gap filler pieces that I don't have. This one was $3.99, but I had to get that because you're not going to see that ever turn up ever again. This is a Philips Digital Blueface, very early CD from 1983. Edo de Wart, the Concertgebouw, doing various little pieces from Richard Wagner. Tannhäuser Overture, the Delphine Overture, and the Flying Dutchman Overture, which of course is a well-known piece. This is a Blueface. These are highly collectible, and a lot of these are worth a lot of money because this is the very first generation of CDs. This would have come out in 1983-84 when almost no stores had CDs yet. These are some of the first CDs ever pressed. What did I pay for this? I can't remember. Not much. But I had to get that because you don't see Blueface CDs, and I've sold several for quite a lot of money. Beethoven's 7th and 8th Symphonies with Franz Bruggen and the Orchestra of the 18th Century on Philips. I had a copy of these already, but I did not have this original disc. These are nice. I like the Franz Bruggen pieces, the Franz Bruggen recordings. Tchaikovsky's 6th Symphony with, who is this? This Kurt Sonderling and the Berlin Symphony Orchestra. I think this was the East German Symphony Orchestra in Berlin at the time. This was recorded again in the early 80s. Again, this is a very early CD. This is probably released in 1983 in the very early days. This is a rare one to come across. It's not like I need another Tchaikovsky 6, but an early PCM digital Denon CD of this vintage is getting rare. It even has the smooth edge case, which they only made for a couple of years in the very early days of CDs. I listened to a little of it. It sounded fine. Bach Organ Works on 2 discs with Peter Herford. Again, London. You know, toccata and fugue and all the things you expect to be on there. Now I did pay $8 for this because I'm trying to get my Bob Marley collection complete. Exodus, a classic Bob Marley album on Tough Gong Mango Island or whatever. Of course, it's a great album. And Tea for the Tillerman by Cat Stevens, 1970. This is on A&M. I used to own this, and I sold it to a girl at work many years ago because I found I wasn't really listening to Cat Stevens at that point. But this was $2, and I thought, well, I'll get Cat Stevens back in my collection. So there's that. Battery power is at a premium right now. I did want to mention that I'm reading some books, and that's one reason I haven't been doing much else in terms of my spare time. I'm reading, yes, Finnegan's Wake by Joyce. I am more than halfway done with it. And you know what? I'm kind of enjoying it. The wordplay is off the chart, and it's making me think a little bit differently about language. And I'm using a guide as I go along, and I'm also listening to some audiobooks as I read the text. So I'm getting reinforcement, and yeah, this is probably the hardest book in all of English to read, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it. Also, this toughie, the Recognitions by William Gaddis. It's an enormous novel. I'm more than halfway done with this one too. In fact, I'm 66% done with this. I hate this novel. I'm not going to lie. I don't like it. It started off great, and it's just gotten repetitive. But I'm going to finish it. I'm going to get this under my belt. I'm reading The Great Shark Hunt by Hunter S. Thompson. It's what it is. You know Hunter Thompson. And Antony Beevor's Fall of Berlin, 1945. I am more than halfway done with that. I should be able to finish this in less than a week. I just finished One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Very great book. And also Naked Lunch by William S. Burroughs. I love that. I enjoyed the hell out of that. And also I finished I read The Wreck of the Whale Ship Essex about some guys getting away on a trying to get away from the wreck and find land, which took all 3 months. Quite an ordeal for them. Let's just continue with the CDs. I got this Don Ellis Shock Treatment Jazz from around 1968, I think. Big band arrangements, very modern. These are awesome. This is an awesome album. I like Don Ellis quite a bit. Here's another one from a little earlier in his career called New Ideas, Don Ellis. This I haven't even opened yet, but I know what it sounds like because it's on YouTube. I listened to it. It's quite good. This is called Alto Summit with Phil Woods and some other jazz sax players. This is awesome. This was only $2 at half price. Not going to run across that very often. This is on the Milestone label, so you know it's going to be decent. So let's just plow through this pile here. We have an, oh wait, did I do these already? Don Braden, After Dark. I think I might have done these before. I'm not sure. We'll just go through them real fast. Eric Alexander and Vincent Herring, Mulgrew Miller, Sam Jones, Red Rodney, Steve Nelson et al. Called Communications on Crisscross, Red Rodney again, Kenny Drew Jr. A lot. These are all superb albums. I listened to them at the store with my Walkman to make sure. Dave Pike and Charles McPherson, fantastic. James Spaulding, John Hart, Mel Lewis, Matt Gullahan, Smoking Section, Live at the Blue Note. This is fantastic. Benny Golson Quartet, fantastic. And John Yamada, Bluestone, is that what that's called? Yeah, this is on also Milestone. Pat Metheny, 8081. Joe Zawinul, and the Lost Tribes. This is a great album. Kenny Drew Jr. again, another fine album. Michael Franks, Tiger in the Rain on Warner. Salinas, Luis Salinas. This is a Latin guitar thing. It's very nice. Tropico by Gato Barbieri. This is kind of Gato Barbieri's disco era, so it's a little cheesy, but I try to get any Gato Barbieri I can find. And this is called, oh, this is Maynard Ferguson High Voltage 2. I don't have High Voltage 1, but this one's fantastic. You know, Maynard Ferguson, jazz trumpeter. Joe Lovano, Celebrating Sinatra. Very nice. This is Luisa Maita, Lero Lero, Brazilian singer. I bought this at the public library. This might be the one I'd already heard. Checked it out at the public library before. I'm glad to get this for $1. She's quite nice, good vocalist. Keith Jarrett works on ECM. You know Keith Jarrett, the pianist. Chet Baker Trio. This is called Estate. I'm about to read a book on Chet Baker, I think. Claudio Roditi. Claudio Roditi's fantastic. This one's called Slow Fire. This is also on Milestone. This was like $1.99. People don't know how good these artists are, so you can find bargains. This is magnificent. This is a Brazilian album called Cantando Samba with Filo Machado. It's from 1999, but his sound pretty much always sounds the same, which is a good thing. David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, and the Spiders from Mars. I already own this. I didn't know that, but I went ahead and bought it because of the $1. And then we got the Art Deco series, Marlene Dietrich. It's called The Cosmopolitan. I love these Art Deco series that CBS, Columbia, Sony, or whatever put out back in the 90s of sort of vintage retro vocalists from the 1920s and 30s. All right, I went to a thrift store recently, not too far away from here, and they had a whole bunch of Al Stewart CDs for, I forgot what they were, maybe 50 cents a piece? Yeah, I think they were 50 cents. Time Passages, this was his follow-up to Year of the Cat. It's very nice. Last Days of the Century. Past, Present, and Future. These are all Al Stewart. Al Stewart 24 Carats. Al Stewart, what is this one called? Modern Times. This is from the earlier 70s. And that was it. You know, the funny thing is they had all these Al Stewarts, but they didn't have Year of the Cat, which I still don't have. His most famous album. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. I want to have order here. I need orderliness. Okay, and I got Man of La Mancha. This is the stage production that had Richard Kiley singing the role. I think there's a version out there with Robert Goulet, I believe. And then the movie, I think, has a different singer on it. I'm not sure who's in that. I can't remember. Was it like Peter O'Toole or somebody? I don't know. I don't remember. Nicolette Larson. Nicolette, 1977. I already have this on LP, but I've never had it on CD. This is her debut album. She was associated with Neil Young and kind of the West Coast chill sound of the 70s. She was a hippie girl. She died young. I like her. Spade Cooley. This is Western Swing. I never had any Spade Cooley. This is Columbia Legacy. Never had anything by him in my collection. It's quite nice. I like that Western Swing stuff. Got an Emmylou Harris one here called All I Intended to Be. This is a later one. You see she's become platinum blonde by this point. Nat Adderley Quintet on the Move. More jazz. Fantastic stuff on Evidence Records. Eric Wolfgang Korngold film scores. There's a couple different ones that were put out on him with Charles Gerhardt. This is the one with Elizabeth and Essex, the 1939 film, Betty Davis and Errol Flynn, which I love. Here's another Don Ellis, Electric Bath. This is one of his more famous albums, 1967. This is great. Great big band jazz arrangements with a modern twist. They sound magnificent. Mozart Clarinet Concerto with Jack Breimer and Neville Mariner. I love this performance. This was the first performance of the piece I ever heard on album. I've been looking for this for quite a while, actually, this particular release. And it also has the oboe concerto on it. These are early 70s performances, which I like quite a bit. We got Hindemith and Penderecki on here with the violin concertos. These are Isaac Stern. These are on Sony. This is an ex-library item, apparently. This was at Half Price Books. A Nutcracker highlights disc with Antal Dorati. I've already got the complete, so I didn't know. I ended up buying this for $1, so I kind of have an extra, I guess you could say. Monteverdi pieces. This is called Il Combattimento di Concredi. Il Combattimento di Concredi. Il Combattimento di Tancredi e Clorinda on Harmonia Mundi. It took me about 7 tries to get that right. So that's why it's a bad edit. Anyway, so I think Dave Hurwitz recommended that piece. He had another recording he preferred to that, but whatever. I get what I can afford. First time the Count meets the Duke, Duke Ellington and Count Basie on Columbia. This is the Columbia Jazz Masterpieces from the 80s, those early CDs. Tenor Trio, Ernie Watts and a couple other guys. That's on an album label that I can't read very well. Buddy DeFranco and Dave McKenna. This is on Concord. More jazz, great stuff. Rare stuff. Getting this stuff for $1 or $2 a piece. Hold on, guys. Alright, we got a more Emmylou Harris. This one is called Wrecking Ball. No, it's not Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball. It's Emmylou Harris, who I'd much rather listen to. Crystal Gale, Somebody Loves You. This is an album that came out right before her big breakout record of 77. I think this was 75. But this one has like 3 or 4 hits on it. And it was $1. I like Crystal Gale. Prokofiev, Romeo and Juliet excerpts for piano with Bela Davidovich on Philips. Again, this is a fairly early CD. Recorded in 1982, released around 1985. Very nice, don't see that every day. Andrea Chenier by Giordano with Placido Domingo on the RCA Victor Opera Series. Garrick Olson doing Beethoven piano sonatas, the Pathétique and so forth, Moonlight on that. Beethoven violin sonatas with Guido Kramer and Martha Argerich on Deutsche Grammophon. Jacqueline Dupre and Daniel Barenboim doing the 5 cello sonatas of Beethoven on EMI. It turns out I already own 2 different copies of this already. I didn't know. This was beat to hell, so I fixed it on my buffing wheel outside. For $1, 2-disc set, I couldn't really pass it up even though I already own it. First edition, Louisville first edition record, Samuel Barber pieces, various American composers, Paul Creston and so forth. This is very nice. It's the local orchestra, guys. You gotta get it. Johann Sebastian Bach English Suites. These are on harpsichord with Huguette Dreyfus. 2 discs. DG Archive Galleria. Again, it was a bargain at $1. Couldn't pass that up. Bizet Symphony in C. This is on Naxos with Donald Johannes and the New Zealand Symphony. The sound quality on this is awful. I almost wanted to take it back. Dave Hurwitz recommended this. It's a fine performance, but the sound quality is so bad that it was almost like not enjoyable. So, I don't know. Dave even mentioned the sound wasn't good. So, I don't know, man. Should we be recommending recordings when we have so many others that sound good? I mean, it sounds like they recorded it through a door and backstage or something. This is Bach's. Is this the cello suites? Yeah, this is cello suites of Bach by Matt Heimovitz, and this is on the Oxingale Records label. Pretty rare. Not going to run across that very often. $2. Couldn't pass that up. 2 discs on that. More jazz. The Way, the Bob Boguslaw Quartet. Remember, everything I'm showing you here is good stuff. Like, this is all very fine. This is the original Broadway cast of Hair. I've never had a recording of this on CD, and I just watched the 1979 film about 2 weeks ago and really loved it. I'd seen it when it came out, but I forgot how good it was. So it was nice to hear the original cast. I had it on LP at one point. Simple Dreams by Linda Ronstadt. This is her 1977 album. This was a huge seller. I used to own it on vinyl. This has bunches of hits on it, Blue Bayou and It's So Easy, etc. Jimmy Buffett, Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes, 77. This is his famous breakout album that had Margaritaville on it, and also Changes in Latitudes, the title track. And I resisted buying Jimmy Buffett albums up till now because I didn't really think I'd ever listen to him, but just for pure nostalgia's sake, I bought it. The Chick Corea Acoustic Band on GRP, that you're not going to go wrong with that. Of course, ideally, I'd like to be able to go talk about each of those things at some length, but when I have this much to show, I really have to race through it, and that's what I'm going to do. With this next box, we have one more box, and this is all books. So, we got Old Man of the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Of course, I read this decades ago, and I used to own it, but I got rid of it. And I'm trying to rebuild all my classics again in my library, so now I've got it again. This was $1. The library had a sale table out. Aldo Leopold, Sand County Almanac. This was written, I think, in 1949 or published in 49. It's one of the early environmental essay, nature books. It's a famous one in that genre. And again, I used to own this, but I got rid of it because I thought, well, I'll never get to that. Well, now I'm reading a lot of stuff, so I may actually get to it. And this is actually a nice copy. This is almost mint. This again was at the library for $1. We got Winston Churchill's first volume of his World War II epic volume set of, the history of World War II. This is The Gathering Storm, the first volume. I read this several years ago. I read this book, but I didn't read this copy. But I didn't have a copy of it. This was 50 cents, so I thought, well, shoot, I might as well have that. Robert Graves' I, Claudius. You might know the story of I, Claudius, Claudius the Emperor, the great stories of Rome, the Roman emperors. And this was made into a famous miniseries on PBS back in the 70s. I also have volume 2, but I was selling that on eBay. I didn't know if I'd ever get to volume 1, so I do have volume 1. This I found at a local thrift store. It's a beat up copy, but it's kind of rare. Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane by William Peter Blatty. This was made into a film called The Ninth Configuration back in, I guess, the 80s. It's around 1980, somewhere in there. Which is a really fantastic movie with Stacy Keach. This is the original novel that's based on. This was, I think, 50 cents, but it's so rare to come across. The guy at the desk complimented me for finding this because he knew exactly what this was, and you just don't run across that very much. I was glad to pay 50 cents for a beat-up copy, which is better than no copy. Oh, I've got both volumes of Tales of the City by Armistead Maupin. These were made into, I think, a PBS series back in the 90s that was very popular. It's about a gay guy who moves to San Francisco and all the eccentric characters he meets out there. I already own this, but this was 50 cents and so was this. And they look kind of similar. I thought they would match good on the shelf. A little bit better than the other volume I've got. So I'll probably just sell off the other volume that I have of this and keep this one and set that with that one more or less. Again, they were 50 cents, so I wasn't going to get too picky about it. Here's a famous social book, The Strange Career of Jim Crow by C. Van Woodard, or Woodward. This is a nice copy. I can't remember where I found this. I think I found this at the Dirty Thrift Store. Yes, I found that at the Dirty Thrift Store, which we've talked about before. The manager at the Dirty Thrift Store is such an ass, but I'm not even going to get into that right now. He'll probably never have me back in there. I always argue with him over stuff because he's such a jerk. So anyway, I got Don DeLillo's Libra. I read one Don DeLillo, White Noise. Wasn't crazy about it, but he's such a fated author in the lit bro sphere that I thought I'd go ahead and get that. It was $1. Got a Jack Kerouac book called Orpheus Emerged. I think this is just something they cobbled together after his death, but I was cheap. It was like $1 or $2. I don't know. Here's a Christmas Memory by Truman Capote. They marked this down to $1, I think. No, I think it was $2. But you know, it's nice. I just thought I'd get that since it got marked down. And normally that costs a lot more. More Jack Kerouac. Vanity of Doulos. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Someone will tell me. Eye of the Needle by Ken Follett. This was made into a great film with Donald Sutherland and Kate Nelligan back in the 80s. And my dad used to own this book, and somehow I can't find it anymore. It might have gone out in a yard sale or something, so I had to get that back. So I've got it back. Papa Hemingway by A.E. Hotchner. A.E. Hotchner wrote a book called King of the Hill, which was made into a really good film in the 90s by Steven Soderbergh. This is A.E. Hotchner was a friend of Ernest Hemingway and wrote this biography of him. And I found this for, I think, $5. I was glad to find this. I've been looking for that for a while. I've seen a hard copy around somewhere, but they were charging a lot more for it. John Irving's Hotel New Hampshire. I really like this cover. I read this book back in the 80s. I didn't really like it, but I kind of wanted to get it back and give it another try and see if I liked it more now, and I really like that cover art. So, another John Irving book, A Prayer for Owen Meany. This is a mass market paperback. I had a really big trade paperback that's that big, and I don't want that on the shelf. It's taking up too much room. So I found this cheap option, and I'm going to get rid of that other one and keep this one. Carlos Castaneda's Teaching of Don Juan, A Yaqui Way of Knowledge. I got 2 Carlos Castaneda books recently, and I've never really had much on him before. I've got one over in my shelf over there, but I got another one in here somewhere. Tales of Power by Carlos Castaneda. So I got 2 of him recently. Very philosophical books, kind of new agey. People in the new agey sphere love those. Peter Carey's Oscar and Lucinda. This was made into a very good movie in the 90s with Ralph Fiennes and Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett, however you want to say it. Fear and Loathing in America by Hunter S. Thompson. I'm trying to get all of Hunter Thompson's books. I'm getting there. I'm getting close. I still need to get a few more, but I'm getting close to achieving that. And The Leopard. This is a novel by Giuseppe de Lampedusa, excuse me. This was made into a classic movie in 1963 by Luchino Visconti, starring Burt Lancaster. And that's a masterpiece of a film. And this is the original novel, which is not easy to come across. This was a cheap copy, too. Very happy to find that. And Vineland by Thomas Pynchon. I did pay $5.99 for this because it's hard to find any Thomas Pynchon for less than $10 these days. He's gotten to be really popular among all the reading literati types on YouTube, so his stuff's really getting pushed, and it's hard to find bargains on him now. I'm sorry I'm having to talk while I'm digging here, but I'm doing some crate digging. We're getting close to the end. Yukio Mishima's Sound of Waves. As it turns out, I already own this book. This is more of a mass market. I own a trade that's sitting right over there, but I didn't know. And this was like 75 cents, so I was kind of like, I got to get it at that price. I read this already, The Plague by Albert Camus. It's a really good book. It's my favorite Camus novel that I've read so far, actually. And I love this cover art, that very basic modernistic blue on white. It's nice. It's a mass market paperback. It's in good shape. I got this at the Dirty Thrift Store. This was the find of the day when I was over there a week or so ago. But I never owned a copy. I checked it out from the library and read it, and I've never owned it. So I'm glad to find this for 50 cents in a nice edition, a vintage edition. Animal Liberation by Peter Singer, very famous book from the 70s on animal rights and animal cruelty. I don't want to read it because I don't like animal cruelty, but I figured I might have to take the plunge and read that because it's a classic of its type. Bridge of San Luis Rey by Thornton Wilder. This is an old vintage mass market paperback. I read this book before. It's okay. It's a little bit antiquated and simplistic, to be honest. But Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. I already have a Diary of Anne Frank in the closet, but I liked this copy quite a bit, and it was only 50 cents. So, and then we got the Sierra Club Wilderness Handbook. I just thought this looked really cool. A vintage wilderness book, mass market. I don't know. I guess it's from the Sierra Club. I guess it was published by the Sierra Club. But it's nice. That goes into my nature and mountaineering and adventure book section. So that's it. I think I'm going to read some more books and listen to some more music and watch some more films. So there's that. I don't know what to tell you. Take from that what you will. It's some really good bargain stuff, high quality stuff I found recently. That's it. Signing off from the Outer Galaxy Lounge. Later on. So now I can finally put this stuff away. I've been not putting it away because I wanted you guys to see it before I put it away. And I actually have put some things away that probably should have been on this video, but it was long enough as it was. Before I go, I did want to show some records I found that I almost forgot to mention. Devienne Symphony Concertante for 2 flutes, Flute Concerto, number 7, with the Nicolette. I don't know if they're twins, Aurel and Christian. Well, I guess they wouldn't be because I think one's a guy and one's, I guess they're brother and sister. Don't quote me, but Nicolette on Philips. This was $1, and I remember having a Devienne album some years ago, and I don't think it was this one, but anyway, so I got this for $1, and it sounded fine. It was nice. Charpentier's Pastorelle with William Christie on Harmonia Mundi. This too was $1, and this is a nice pressing of that. Another $1 item. We got Mercury Golden Imports, Howard Hanson Symphony No. 2, and Lament for Beowulf. I have these on CD, but this was $1. The pressing was okay. We got a Chandos. I got this one at Goodwill. Lydia Artemia plays Mendelssohn Sonata, Fantasy, and Andante, and Rondo Capriccioso. This was a nice item to find. This, I think, was $1.59, but it looked brand new. I may have shown this before. Gino Vanelli, Brother to Brother, classic album from '77. Got this Muzio Clementi Sonatas disc with Sidney Foster on piano. This is Musical Heritage Society. This is an impeccable pressing. This was a very quiet, very nice pressing, and it's a gatefold. But that was very nice for $1. And then the Stan Kenton disc, which I may have already shown. I think the rest of these are things I've shown already. I think I showed that Nicolette Larson already. That's her second album. It's called In the Nick of Time. Get it, Nick? Nicolette Larson, In the Nick. Get it? Anyway, so this is her second album. It doesn't have any hits on it. It's not as good as her first album. They had this on CD up at half price recently for like $5, but it's not a very good album, I have to say, even though I do like Nicolette. But